Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. The third attempt. You guys don't know the behind the scenes.
Hey, they don't need to know how many botched jobs that we've had. This is the first time. What are you talking about? You don't give them trade secrets?
I know. Why am I taking everybody behind the curtain?
Yeah. Like when you tell a joke that does well, do you tell the audience like that actually bombed 12 times till tonight?
You're right. Ladies and gentlemen, the very funny, one of my favorite people in the world. Every time I get a chance to bring him on stage, I always say, I love how his brain works. And we're going to talk about that.
What I love is, like, to me, that's very flattering when I'm being brought up because we're friends and stuff. But I always think of an audience member, like, that's such the weirdest credit for if you're just watching comedy in the crowd. Because, like, everybody else at the store is like, all right, you know him from, like, the Joe Rogan Experience and his countless comedy special. And for me, you make it sound like I'm a mentalist. You're like, I love the way this guy's mind works.
Yeah, for me.
Please welcome.
Can I say your name? Please welcome Mr. Fahim Anwar. There he is.
Thank you.
You're here.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. I you know what's funny is I always can tell that I've thrown you for a loop when I bring you up on stage because you come into you when you walk up, you're like, what was that?
Well, I kind of love it though because it's like a great icebreaker because I like addressing that intro and just pretending I'm a mentalist and like pick a number like between 1 and 50. Did your dad die 3 years ago? And they're like, whoa.
I like bringing you up, and I like going before Brad Williams also. Because,
why is that?
Because I do like some jokes that set him up perfectly. You know, like, and he always does it. Like, I'll do the jokes, and then whatever I'm saying, then he'll go right in and be like, and I, you know, blah blah blah, you know, and everybody's like, it's a callback from the previous jokes, and it's like, you know, so it just worked. So I love that. But yeah, man, I am a fan of yours. You know, you know, it's just we're friends and we know each other. But I mean, I honestly am a fan. There's very few comics that I will sit in the back and watch them do comedy.
I'm the same way, and like you're that for me as well. I'm a fan too.
That.
You know,
you didn't have to say that, but I'm just saying.
No, but it's true. When we go like have dinner and stuff after the shows and stuff, like we're in the hallway after I watch your set. Like we'll have tags for each other, and
true.
Like we're kind of kindred comedy spirits. So like a lot of your jokes are kind of in my wheelhouse. That's why I'm like, oh, this would be good, or what about this? And like we kind of get giddy off that, you know?
Yeah. There's been a few times too where I go, oh, I should have thought of that. This motherfucker, you know?
And
you know
I like how you walk the line, you know? I always talk about that because like the store is like a gym, and I'll see you try to tackle like a hot button issue, and I'm watching it day one of you doing it.
Yeah, that's true.
And it's not going over well. You know what I mean? Like some of the crowd thinks you're a monster, you know? but and you would be doing like, you'd be killing, but you want to get into your new stuff, and now half the crowd thinks you're a monster and it's off-putting. But I just love it as a comic because I know this is day one, and I can't wait till when it's finished. And I'm just watching it. I'm watching the genesis of it. There are countless bits of yours where I'm like, he cracked it.
Oh, right. I appreciate that. I mean, but the thing is, like, what I was not enjoying about the Comedy Store is it wasn't a gym anymore.
Dude, you know, I know what you mean. When I got past, it was the dark ages. No one was going there. It was all about Meltdown, you know, at the comic book store. Like the alt scene was it was like high octane, running on all cylinders. And the store didn't even exist pretty much. But there was a beauty to it that, man, I took some of the biggest swings in my comedy career because there were no stakes whatsoever. There's no industry there. You could really experiment.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, this big shift happened, and it turned into like the hottest place to be. And like there's always agents and directors and all these people there going, and then you're being seen, and then you're forced to like, you're doing a Friday night 9 p.m. spot every single night.
Yeah,
you know,
on a Tuesday, Tuesday, which is supposed to be kind of like a warm up or just like work on some new stuff. You're sandwiched between Rogan and like Sebastian, and everyone, like, you're not going to do your new stuff in that time.
Yeah, it was weird for me because, you know, because then like, you know, like I just specifically, it's like there was this club that I'd played before. I hadn't been back in a while. And Bobby Lee told me about this, is that, like, you know, they asked, because I said, they haven't had me back. And he said, well, I found out because he went to that club, and he was something about they were at the Comedy Store one night and I didn't do well or something like that, or whatever I was talking about. And it was probably one of those nights that I'm like, well, let me work this out, you know, because I honestly don't give a fuck. Like I go like, okay, this is my time. Like I knew that I became a professional comic when I didn't care if the audience laughed or not. It was just about like a point of emphasis of like, I need to work on this thing and I'm going to do this. And if they like it or not, great. But I'll understand why they didn't like it, and then I'll work on it for the next time. But I've had so many moments like that at the Comedy Store. Like, I was working on this one bit, and then this couple attacked me outside, just like, I can't believe you were talking about it. And I had this long 45-minute discussion with them just because they're these pretentious liberal fucks.
Also, they don't understand it's a work in progress. When people fail to understand that when you watch a comedian, a lot of people are naive and think that this is their like, ta-da, this is it. You don't know what day. Maybe it's like day 1 of 60 of this bit kind of getting to where it needs to be. And you saw it in its ugliest form. Yeah. But like, you can't judge it upon that one day. There's nuance to it.
Very nuanced. And then you have this kind of feeling, though, that started to happen at the Comedy Store of being like, well, I guess I got to put on a show every night, and I had to go work out someplace else. You know
what I did, though? Like, that started happening at the Comedy Store where just everyone had to put on their A game. You couldn't really work on stuff. I would tell Adam to put me up late in the night.
I was always wondering, like, I wonder why he's going up late again,
Yeah, because that's the only way I would feel comfortable, just because I didn't want to ruin the show. Like, if I have a sweet time slot, like 10:30 or 11, you kind of perform for the time slot you have, in my mind. Like, that's such a meaty, people are coming out to... Yeah. And especially when you're not famous, like I didn't have credits like you, or I'm like less known, like people kind of know who you are. So when I get that time slot, I want to do that type of show. And if I want to try new ideas, I would ask Adam and be like, hey, can you throw me up around 12:30? And that's when it's very sparse in the crowd and it's chill. And it's a laid back vibe. And then I can just kind of throw ideas out there.
Now, was there like a pressure that you would feel or put on yourself? Like when you would look at the lineup and be like, okay, I'm on the lineup, and it's like, oh man, Mark Maron, Joe Rogan, and all these people.
Kind of. That would always happen. You put your avails in on Monday, you call in, you say when you're available throughout the week, and then they tell you what your spots are. And there are some people energy-wise where you're like, oh, cool, okay, I can just, not that it's not like they're easy to follow, it's just like they're complimentary energy-wise for you to go up after them. Whereas some guys, you're like, all right, how do I attack this? This is tough to go after this guy.
Especially when it's a baton pass too. It's like it's an energy. Yes,
there's
pass.
No MC. There's what people don't realize, I guess, like if you're not an avid comedy fan or know how the store works, it's tag team. Like every other comedy club, there's an MC. So a comic will go up, then the MC, he comes in between each act and kind of like he's the coffee beans at a fragrance counter, just kind of resets the room. And then the next comic goes up. At the Comedy Store, there is no MC. It's like I do my set, then I bring you up. So there's no MC. So when you have no MC, it's kind of like whiplash if you have vastly different personalities and energies. Yeah. So if you have a guy who's just like swinging off the chandelier and straight to a one-liner guy, it's like the audience has to warm up to it. It takes like 5 minutes before they know what's up.
And then then you become your own MC. It's like, or you're going up to somebody that does all crowd work, and you have to be like,
yes, like because I would always go after bullshit. Rick Ingraham. I would always go up after Rick Ingraham, like, or like at the Comedy Store, sometimes for a month, or you'll be in these phases where you're always after a guy, or you're always before a guy. Yeah, and you kind of like trade off. And whenever I'd go after Rick Ingraham, it was a bit of like, how do I attack this? I could never just like stroll into the store. I'd have to be like, all right, what do I want to open with? What joke is best? Because he's like a crowd work guy. And like people love crowd work. It's so magical to them. So when you have bits, like structured jokes, it seems so like fake after crowd work. So you have to figure out a way to kind of like weave it in.
I know, and that's so frustrating. And then we've talked about this privately, just being like, so here's this thing that I've crafted and worked on for months, maybe years, and presenting it to the crowd. And the thing that they want to hold on to is like, I love
look at this motherfucker.
Girl, yeah. When that drunk girl said something and you said this thing to her, that was my favorite part of the show.
You know what it is?
It's so frustrating.
I understand it though. There's a magic to it because everyone in the room knows that it's this event that just happened for the people in the room. It wasn't contrived. It wasn't written. There's like a fleeting magic to it. Whereas a bit, can be great, but you know that it's been honed. Whereas like if something happens and off the top of the head, people put a lot of value into that for some reason.
Yeah, too much value, you know?
Yeah, it's like I would say it's like candy, and bits are like a meal.
Yeah, I totally agree. I don't I know I keep making reference that we already talked about this, but whatever. I did a show yesterday for the first time in like since the quarantine started, you know?
Yeah.
This weird outdoor, Matt Rife put it on in the parking lot of his apartment building, and there was chairs set up. Everybody was in their own groups and masks on, and I was standing in the back of a pickup truck with a bullshit mic system.
Yeah.
It was
a show that would be a nightmare for you pre-quarantine.
It was like 6 p.m. start time, you know, in the daytime. But it was so cathartic, and it was so like I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing a show. This is the greatest thing ever. I didn't realize how much I missed it, and I even said to the crowd, I was like, you know. I was like, if I invited you to a show, if there was no quarantine and I invited you to a show like this, you would laugh your ass off thinking like, I would never go to a show like that. But here these people were just like so excited to be out. So
it's the hottest show in town and they don't even know it.
I know. So it's just, I didn't realize how much I missed doing stand up until I did it. So
I still haven't done it. I think like March 12th was the last day that I did it. It was the last day the Comedy Store was open.
March 12th was my birthday.
Oh, wow. Happy birthday. Sorry, I'm late, dude.
I was out in Tennessee doing shows, and it was like that night, it was like, they were like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. But I end up doing that show, and I end up doing the next day, and then I flew home, and then the world shut down.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, I know, it's just, it's amazing that now we're here in like, what's the date now? We're like in July. Dude. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, this, like, you know, that terrible phrase, the new normal.
The new normal.
Like, when is the new normal going to become normal? You know, like, where it's like...
Oh, man, where we even drop the new off of it, where we just accept it.
Yeah, we're just like, well,
that's why I was in a bit of a funk. Like, when it first hit, I was okay. Like, I'm already kind of keep to myself anyways. But what was great about stand-up is I get to see my friends, and that's how I would be social. I would do my spots, and I would get to be a social butterfly and catch up and force myself to interact. And, you know, I'm not so much like an introvert where it's debilitating, but it's kind of nice to have that part of your schedule carved out where you know you're going to see your friends and stuff.
And not even just
to be social.
Not even just friends, but like-minded individuals.
Yes,
which I think
comedians are a very special breed.
Right.
We think in jokes. So yeah, and losing that it kind of sucks.
Yes, it does suck. But even not just that, it's like, you know, we lost that, and then we lost, like, you know, people lost writing jobs and acting jobs and, like, you know, all these things, and you're just kind of sitting here, like, wondering, like, what am I now? What's going to happen? What's the future going to look like? So we just, like, for me, I'm just fingers crossed for the scientists that they come up with something.
A vaccine. Come on, nerds. Figure it out.
Get it.
Come on.
You know, maybe funny if we're bullying them into, like, curing this.
Yeah. Just slamming in the lockers.
What are you doing in there? You being a bitch in there?
Yeah, you can sleep when you come up with a vaccine, dude. Come on. I want to go to bars. Fucking hurry up.
Yeah, man. It's crazy. Like, I just saw an article about a French bus driver was killed by some passengers who he said, you guys have to put on your mask. He's just doing his job. And they dragged him off the bus and they beat him to death.
Jeez.
You know what I mean? So you're just like that's the line.
It's like you have to worry about the disease and idiots. You know what I mean? Like, if the coronavirus won't kill you, some guy who doesn't want to wear a mask will beat the fuck out of you.
You know what's weird about, like, what we say about the, like, normal, like, there's certain patterns of behavior that we had before. Like, okay, so yesterday I was going to pick up some food for my girl and I get out of my car. I forgot my mask, so I get out of my car and I walk back. And I had, like, I felt like I had some phlegm or something. I don't know. My throat. So I just, you know, did a little thing and I spit on the ground.
Ooh, bro, you know I mean? That's an atomic bomb. Dude, that's a biological bomb. You can't do that.
I looked over and there was a man and a wife pushing their baby cart, you know, baby carriage, and on the sidewalk way away from me. And they were looking at me like I literally shit in my hand and rubbed it on their kid's face.
To like, them, all they see. To them, all they see is a mushroom cloud and, like, the ring.
Yeah, it's like, and it's coming for them,
Like they have the stroller, and then just like their face gets blown.
And I just thought, oh man, but by the way, you probably shouldn't have done that even before. But
true. But now everyone's antenna is up. Yeah, like if I hear any throat shit, you're like, what's going on?
Yeah, man. You feel like, but I think there should be some bodily function etiquette now, like a way that you sneeze, like you just
maybe it's like a breastfeeding booth just for like phlegm stuff. They just set it up around town. You get in there and you go. It's like a vacuum tube. It's like. Yeah. Can you go to a bathroom? It's too dangerous. The aerosol element. There's a vacuum tube, and you just go.
And then there'll be like a men's and a women's, and then like the gender specific. They'll be like, hey, that's not your phlegm room.
Dude. Hilarious. Yeah, man. Like one thing I did notice is, all this identity politics stuff and cancel culture. When the pandemic first hit, did you notice how quiet it was on Twitter for like a month or two? Yeah. There was none of that because you realize humans were able to kind of prioritize. Like, all right, bathroom shit doesn't really matter right now when I need toilet paper or whatever the thought process was. No one was trying to cancel each other over minor transgressions because they were trying to survive as a species. You know what I mean?
But it's back, But even
it's back, yeah. That's how you know that it's the new normal. Is like, all right, we can go back to canceling people through a pandemic.
I even felt it, but even like when after you had the George Floyd incident, and then the reaction to it, and then the Black Lives Matter really heated up. There was a point there where I was like, oh man, can I post my video game podcast is coming up?
Oh yes.
Can I
See, people don't understand. This is the weird thing about being a comedian, because we're also a business. It's warped because our business is us. So it's this blurred line, and you want to promote and create art and put it out there into the universe, but sometimes tragedies happen, or the world is in a weird state, and you have to use judgment where you go, okay, I guess I'm on ice for a little bit because it's not appropriate.
Yeah.
And you have to do that call. Like you might have like a great sketch or a great stand-up clip, and then something terrible happens, and then you go, all right, I have to sit on this for a while.
Yeah.
And you have to do this fucked up thing where you're like, okay, has enough time passed? You have to like see when that time is.
I know.
Where like, am I a monster if I start posting again?
Yeah. Right. That's exactly how I felt. But you're right about that, even with our jokes, Mm-hmm. It's like some people didn't do that in certain cases. Like, it's like I have a great Kobe Bryant joke. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
Not in the wake of it. Like you got to give it a second. You know what I mean?
Yes,
it's like
and that requires so much. You realize people's perception of social norms are widely different.
Yes.
So sometimes it's not that they're a monster. It's just like they just have no antenna for it, and they didn't err on the side of caution. You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, it's like, so do you feel like that? Because you also skirt the line. You like to like really,
and it's interesting. I do like to skirt the line, and sometimes I do worry about kind of like perception and intent. And I had this thought the other day too, is sometimes people get canceled on Twitter and different things, and it's just because, and like their core community kind of know who this person is and what their heart is.
Right.
But the larger percentage of the world has no idea, so it's easy to just like attack some anonymous soundbite or whatever.
Right. But but the funny thing you say about that is that context is important.
Mm-hmm.
So we also have to realize that like if like we can't assume that people know. It's like I realized that with doing podcasts. Like you're on a podcast and you're saying things and you're like, you say whatever you want to say. And then the next thing you know,
podcasts are like depositions now.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know.
We just have all this recorded footage just to like get fucked by ourselves from the past.
Yes.
And society progresses, but like somebody could pull up this in the years 30, 20, I mean, not 30, 25, but like 20, 40 or something, let's say. And then I seem so outdated and unwoke by those standards.
Or maybe they'll look back and be like, oh, well, maybe we'll look back at like we look at the Puritans, you know, like the Scarlet Letter. Like we'll look back to that. I mean, like, isn't it weird how similar it is when you think about the Scarlet Letter? How that Twitter is that it becomes that. Because I felt like this, like I felt the pressure of after the George Floyd thing. I felt the pressure of like, well, I have to post something. Like, what do I do? You know, I put the black thing up, you know what I mean? And I was like, and I felt, I didn't like it. Like I did it and I was like, right after I was like, I shouldn't have done that. But then the thing was, now I can't delete it because then like, what am I saying there? So I was like all in my head about it and I was so mad at myself because of that. And I hate that. I hate the pressure. The call? Yeah, what do you do? And then it's like, and
do you post? Do you not post? Are you a monster if you don't post?
Right.
Are you virtue signaling if you do? It's just like you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't, for sure. So that definitely was something that I was feeling. And then it's like all the things that have gone on, you know? You know, it's like, well, you know, there was like, you know, some, you know, like the big incidents that have happened in the comedy community in recent times right now. Again, you're forced to be like, hey, you have to talk about that. You have to. If you don't talk about, you know, it's like whatever happens. It's like it's like with the George Floyd. If you're white and you don't say Black Lives Matter, Twitter makes you feel like that means you're a racist. You know,
I've had this thought.
You don't address it. You're, you know, it's like no, fuck you. You don't get to dictate how I process this, and I don't need to share it with you, internet.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I agree. Like. Yeah, you shouldn't be dictated by just some like general like trolls on the internet or something. You're saying like, hey, you should like, who are you? You're not a network exec or whatever. Like,
I know.
You know what I mean?
But they make it out like they are. So again, like you skirt the line with like a lot of your material. Like for instance, I remember one of your jokes that I loved so much. But see, you're like you say, you're a thoughtful person because you're aware of like I don't want to offend people. But that doesn't stop you from doing it. It just makes you work harder on it to make sure that you put it out, tweak it properly. Yeah. Like you had
that'll happen several times. Finish your thing.
I'm saying so you had this great joke about the I think it was the girl with Down syndrome who was modeling.
Well, you know what's interesting too is sometimes you'll have jokes and you do them for a while, and society evolves while you're doing the joke. So it works maybe it worked maybe 3 years ago, but that's like one of the jokes that I would not do today. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
I have a couple jokes where people loved them back in the day, but like nowadays it just seems like not appropriate. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, or you have to change it, or you have to update it, or you like
changed it, or I've evolved. I've evolved as a writer and as a person. You know, so that's interesting. Sometimes where like a joke stops working and the crowd's just sort of like, oh, you shouldn't talk. You know what I mean?
I know, you're like, but wait a minute. 2 weeks ago, you guys were, this was killing, you know?
Dude, you know what's crazy? Hold on. I have this, you know, George Floyd was happening, all this stuff, but I had this bit from like a year or two ago, talking about cops and stuff, like kind of addressing police brutality. And this bit would always kind of, sometimes it would smash, sometimes it would put the brakes on the show. There was like a lot of tension in the room whenever I would say it. So the bit, I'd be like, I got in trouble over a tweet recently. Like I wrote, why go to Westworld to kill people with no consequence when you could just be a cop and get paid for it? You know?
Oh, right.
And this is before all this stuff, you know? I mean, there were cases, but it wasn't so clear cut like today. And I'd be like, you go, the worst thing is nothing happens to these guys. They just get suspended with pay. I go, it's almost like these guys are just planning trips and then realizing they don't have enough vacation days. He's like, Johnson, this is the 4th unarmed black guy you've killed this month. I'm going to have to suspend you with pay. I go, and then he's just standing there with a fishing pole. Like, well, Sarge, you got to do what you got to do. You're tough but fair, you know? And it was just such a tense joke where some people were like, they loved it. And some people were kind of like, you can't talk about that. And then I posted it recently after the George Floyd stuff, and unanimously everyone is just like in favor of it. Like, yes, it's getting so many shares and all that. When I remember a time when it wasn't like that.
Yeah, man. I noticed one thing I like about what you do, and by the way, for the people watching, if you might not know Fahim, but he had a special. Unfortunately, it was on CISO.
Yeah, but it's on YouTube now. I leveled up,
that's
baby.
Great. He leveled up from CISO to YouTube, which is
YouTube,
great.
baby.
So
but what's great is it's polished because like they paid for it, so it looks beautiful. It's like a really well shot special at a theater and everything. And then it bounces around from place to place, and now it's on YouTube, and I like that people can see it.
Yeah,
so
totally,
it's called
There's
No
agree.
Business Like Show Business.
Yeah, so make sure you check that out. And he also, but even a bigger deal, even if it might not have been like widely watched like it should have been, but Fahim was the head writer star of Goatface on Comedy Central, and what was great about it and groundbreaking about it, it was like bunch of brown guys from the Middle East in a sketch show. And was it like, was that a dream come true, or was it like, because I know right now you want to get on SNL, you want to be a writer on SNL, you want to be a performer on SNL, and I know you're in the process of trying to make that happen. So how was the Goatface process?
It was a dream, man. Like, cause I love stand up and I love sketch. Those things just come to me. Like I have an antenna and those ideas just get beamed down to me. I have a real aptitude for stand-up and sketch. And I've been able to do stand-up, just, that's what I've been doing. But sketch, to do it in a professional kind of high production way, you need to get tapped to do it by like a network or something, if you're not doing it on YouTube or something. So, but the craziest trajectory is I got into stand-up because I loved SNL. I just loved that show growing up, and I researched how do people get on it. And they either went to Groundlings, Second City, UCB, or they did stand-up. And then I Googled the schools, and then you have to pay money. I go, stand-up just seems more doable. It's free. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my parents weren't like super stoked about comedy, so like, I can't tell them I'm going to clown school, right?
Yeah, especially because you were an engineer.
Yeah. So, I mean... Well, they paid for college, but I could only do, that was like the lowest degree I could do and have them still pay for it. So did stand up and all that. And
wait. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Like you hear that's the standard of Afghan parents.
Yeah.
Is that the lowest degree you can get is a
mechanical
engineer. So they're like disappointed when they're talking about you.
They are, dude. Oh, honestly, like I got the degree and I was working at Boeing. So I'm working at Boeing Aerospace.
He's only a mechanical engineer.
Like they're ashamed at dinner parties. Like our son, he's a mechanical engineer at Boeing, and we wanted him.
And then like there's women that go,
or did they spit out their drink? Like, how can you show your face knowing this?
But I just you said that, and you said it so casually that I was just like thinking to myself, wow,
maybe
what a different standard people from other places have about education. So you got your lowly mechanical engineer degree.
Yeah.
To appease your parents.
Yeah. I mean, but also just to kind of like get a degree where I knew I would get a job to support myself, because I knew I wanted to move out here to LA while I pursued all this stuff. And yeah, I did it. I worked, and then I was doing some sketch just with Goatface, first on my own, and then I teamed up with Goatface, and we just thought that there was an exciting time. Like there had never been a sketch show or a sketch group with 4 brown dudes doing really intelligent, just funny sketch. Like sometimes it's about being brown, but sometimes it's about being American, just totally normal.
Yeah.
To be able to switch hit like that. I always thought it was like a hybrid of In Living Color and Chappelle's Show. In Living Color, and that it would be the first to have that racial cast, that racial background, 4 brown dudes, and then the social commentary of like a Chappelle's Show. And we were trying to sell it and stuff, but this is before Trump got elected, and just it didn't seem so obvious. So we just got a bunch of no's. Like for 2 years, we were doing the sketch thing, and then Hassan gets Daily Show, and then Asif booked some acting stuff, and it just kind of evaporated. And then years later, I'm walking to the Comedy Store, and Hassan's profile has risen. He's doing Daily Show. He does the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And then he does his own special, The Homecoming King, on Netflix. So the White House thing and the Homecoming King really kind of catapulted him. And I'm walking to the Comedy Store, and his manager is like, Comedy Central, they want to do a sketch show with Goatface. Just random as fuck. just drops in your lap.
Wow.
Sometimes you push things so hard and then you get nowhere, and then other times things just kind of fall out of the sky. It's weird.
Yeah.
The way this business works.
And it was just a one-off, like almost like a one-off, like
it was like a 1 hour sketch special. So it wasn't a series. It was just like but it was cool because we got to do what we did on YouTube, but for like on steroids though, like really high production. Aristotle's a great director. Some of the ideas I was able to do were pretty high level because we had the money for the sets and all of that. And what's funny is around that time, we were about to ramp up on production for Goatface. And then I got an SNL audition just for LA. So they were seeing people in LA. And I did the audition over at IO. So I just did stand up on there. I think Casey Affleck was in the crowd and Ben Affleck. Wow. And then one of the producers as well from SNL. And I did what I wanted to do stand up wise, but I didn't get it then. But it was almost a blessing because it allowed me to carry through with Goatface and do that project with my friends and kind of finish what we started and just do it on a large scale. And so I'm very proud of it, what we did.
You should be proud of it. It was great.
Thanks, man. If you YouTube Goatface, I think there might be some of the sketches that they put up on YouTube finally.
And that's what's great about YouTube. But what's great about the sketch platform, art form, is it translates great to YouTube. You know, like I think Key and Peele is probably bigger on YouTube than it is when it was on TV itself.
For sure.
Because I find myself going in a rabbit hole of Key and Peele sketches, and then I'm just laughing for an hour, and I'm like, oh shit, I just watched 50 Key and Peele sketches or whatever it is.
They caught the tail end of that paradigm shift between TV and the internet because they were a TV show, and then I remember towards the end of their show, they would have some clips on YouTube, and at the end of their YouTube clips, they'd be like, "Hey guys, Key and Peele is on." They're like pleading with people to watch the show because they didn't realize this is how people consume media nowadays. They were still fighting it.
Yeah.
And then once they embraced YouTube, it took off. Once they realized, like, oh, they're getting the views, but in a different way. It's different metrics.
Oh man, I love that. That's one of my favorites. I mean, it's like like I say, what I like about sketch on the internet is you could cut all the fat off of this. Like a lot of shows have too much bullshit.
Totally.
Because even in SNL, I like SNL, and I know you're a big fan of SNL, but I could do without the musical guest. I could do without the opening monologue. I could do without the interstitials and all that stuff. I'm just like, cut to the church lady, cut to whatever the things are. I just want to see that. So I love sketch shows on the internet.
On the internet, because all the fat's gone. Even when we were making Goatface, I made it a point. I told the guys, I go, I want no fat on this thing. I want it to be all digestible for the internet. There's no fluff. I didn't want to do like us coming out and be like, hey guys, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Even though they made us kind of do that up top because they're...
But I get it.
I still don't like that. I just want pure, uncut sketch.
Like Mr.
You know what I mean?
Like Mr. Show was like that.
I just want raw, a ton of sketch. But they were like, oh, they want to know who you are to get a feel for your personalities. But in my mind, I'm like, no one's going to watch this shit live. It's going to be on the internet. So you have to do that thing where you come out and you're like, hey, what's up, everybody? Just like this fluff. That's like the meat and potatoes are the sketches.
Yeah.
But the interstitials, we did stand up, and I thought that was cool because I wanted people to know that we are all stand-ups, which I think is unique because I think stand-ups don't get a lot of love in the sketch world. You have to come from UCB. You have to come. It's very cliquey. It's an institution. You kind of have to. That's like the only way you can kind of come or like be taken seriously as a sketch is to come through Groundlings or UCB. Whereas I always felt like I'm a stand-up who's actually like good at sketch as well, and I would get overlooked just because I'm a stand-up. So that's why I thought it was very cool to show like, no, we're for stand-ups who are doing sketch pretty well.
Yeah, talk about like what you think about the subsect of comedy, especially like in LA. Like I didn't even know there was like this sketch comedy scene.
Oh yeah, it's a whole world.
There's
dude.
like a whole scene I didn't even know about. It's like just like there's a whole alternative comedy scene, and then like I would be considered mainstream. You know, I'm in the mainstream, and then we're the one that's looked down upon the most.
Right. Yeah, but what's weird is now the pendulum is shifted. Let's say pre-corona though, where it was all about Meltdown and all that stuff, and then now it's all about the store, and that's where we are. So that's what's kind of cool, is to finally get some shine, like our scene to get some shine.
Well, I think that what's happened is that comedy has embraced the other media outlets, forms of media outlets, to help market their comedy and their personalities. I mean, podcasting is what has made comedy what it is right now, because it's direct to consumer. This is my personality. There's no gatekeeper. There's nothing.
You fuck with it or you don't.
Yeah. This is me. And then later you might be like, you know what? I want to go watch that guy do stand-up now because I like what he was talking about on his podcast, or he's silly, like whoever it is, like whatever kind of personality or person you are. You know what I mean? And by the way, you don't even have to be a great stand-up, you know? I mean, you know what I mean? Like what we would consider like, oh man, that's well, that guy's going to be on the Mount Rushmore of like whatever, you know, like if Chappelle had a podcast, it would be like, oh my, can you even imagine?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, you know, some of these
being able to reach our fans without the gatekeepers has been the biggest shift and the most empowering thing to happen to us as comedians. And even on my level, like I've experienced that, because like the Netflixes aren't there for me right now for some reason. Like
they aren't there for me either, brother.
Yeah. When you understand you're in the business long enough, you realize it's nothing personal. People are in positions of power. They have particular tastes. You don't happen to fall in it at this point in time. Maybe later you will. But you don't want to like sit on your hands just hoping this hot girl will like you. You figure out other ways. Yeah. I think earlier in my career, I was waiting for Mr. Hollywood to like tap me.
It's your turn, Fahim.
It's your turn. And then like, you realize...
This is Mr. Hollywood. Is Fahim there?
Let me look good for Mr. Hollywood. Hi, Mr. Hollywood. How are you? Is there an opening? And then you realize that's like a pipe dream. That's not how it works. And it's just a mirage that you're waiting for. This person doesn't give a fuck about you. And... I had all this, I had my special that I did for CISO. I have bits of just me doing spots around town, and I started chopping it up and putting it on Instagram. And that's how I started to grow on Instagram. Like people were discovering me that way.
Yeah.
And that was really eye-opening. Like, oh, this is Netflix in everyone's pocket.
Yeah.
And it's not region protected. Right. And no one's telling me I can't do a thing that I know I can do.
Right. Yeah, it's weird. Like I think comedy's weird. Like this is my point of view, by the way, people watching right now. So even if Fahim doesn't have to even answer or respond, it's just because this is what I think's happened to comedy recently, is that stand-up comedy is not enough for people because a lot of it's mediocre. So to be great at stand-up, to really captivate a crowd, there are very few stand-ups that actually can do that. So then what the comedy business does is they find ways to let people who are mediocre comedians shine. So they do roast battle. They do like all these different types of like comedy plus, you know, do laundry on stage and let's see who does, you know, they have to have these like tricks and gimmicks because just
dangle some keys or whatever outside of
because I was watching this show on, and I was so mad when I was watching it, but then I found myself enjoying it later. But Rebel Wilson is hosting this show on Netflix, and it's a bunch of Australian comics or New Zealand Australian comics, right? They're like in like not a house, but they're in this thing. The whole point of the show is that it's a contest. They have to try to make each other laugh, and whoever laughs in this room, they get disqualified. And as the show's coming on, my girl wants to watch it, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, what? You know, but then as I started to watch it, I was like, oh, this is hilarious. Like, and then I thought to myself, how great, do you know how funny that would be if it was like the Comedy Store guys? Like we trying to make each other laugh, and then these guys are they're talking shit about each other, and I was like, oh, this is like so great. But I go, okay, so now I get it. So it's like, you know, I had to rethink my feeling about it. But at the same time, I'm like, damn, can't stand up be enough?
I know, we're just such purists because we've dedicated our lives to this craft that we want good stand up to be enough. And sometimes I think we forget that, especially nowadays, there are so many specials out there.
Right.
That even though like we can sit through them, comb through them, and see the value in all of them, just like the average person gets so much like stand-up atrophy. They just don't. It's too much. It's overexposure. So they need a gimmick wrapped into it.
Yeah, but I consider stand-up like these specials now. They're not. Well, we've heard this a million times, but they're not special anymore.
Yeah, specials aren't
fine,
special.
but they're content. It's like doing a Vine video, but like for an hour.
Another frustrating thing, we talked about this before, is just, I want to get this point across, and I think a lot of people don't think about it, is this shift with stand-up comedy that's going on where like identity politics has become more important than the actual bar being set by the comedian, or like how good the comedy is. It's more about like yes, representation is important, but sometimes representation right now is more value is being put into that than how good the comedy is. Yeah,
and I feel like that's personal for you.
It's personal for me. The only reason I say that is because my parents are from Afghanistan. I'm proud to be Afghan. I have some jokes sometimes about it. But I grew up in Seattle. I'm very American, and my comedy brain is just very regular, very normal sensibilities. And I think sometimes because I don't address being brown a lot, some of those diversity opportunities aren't afforded to me because I'm not being diverse in the way they want me to be diverse.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with you, brother, because for me it's like I'm not specific. I'm not something enough. Mm-hmm. I'm just not white.
It's like, why isn't it funny enough?
Yeah, it's just, but it's like, so, and even when you're like, and I've been on so many different types of shows. I've been on a Latino show for doing stand-up. I've been on a black show for doing stand-up. I've been on the white shows for doing stand-up.
I've been on a Chinese show.
Yeah.
I just don't tell anybody. Yeah, I roll with it.
They don't know. But I feel like some of the people want to know. They want it to be specific. They want it to be like, well, we want, you're are you black? Because we'd love you to be blacker. Is really what they're saying. We want you to be like, you're not. You're like 6:30 and we need midnight.
I've never heard it put like that. We need midnight. We need a gremlin.
Yeah. You like the sun is setting, but we kind of need at night. So I understand what you're saying. Like so sometimes but see, I don't want to rage against that all the time too. It's like, because it's right now when I feel something when I see a ton of white celebrities, especially even the comics, how they're addressing the George Floyd and Black Lives Matter, sometimes it's cringy to me. Yeah. Because for me, I'm like, this has been going on. Like, so because you think this is the popular thing to do right now, or, you feel the pressure of like, now you want to step out and be like.
I think what's crazy is there had never been a video framed so perfectly. Like Scorsese couldn't have directed it better. You know what I mean? In terms of just capturing what minorities have known for years. And finally, it was so black and white and clear cut that nobody could like justify it anymore. They couldn't be like, well, the police officer didn't know, he felt threatened. Just all those excuses were gone with this video. And that's why you see so many white people and so many people out in the streets side by side. Because like, it took that to get hit over the head with, to be like, I fucking get it now. You know what I mean? Which is unfortunate, but
it's crazy. I have a big brother from Big Brothers of America. When I was 7 years old, I still know him today. So he's like one of the persons I know the longest in my life. But I remember back in the day when the Rodney King beating happened, I remember how shocked he was as a white guy, a white Jewish guy. I remember him saying that to me. He's like, I didn't think that really happened. Like that was his mentality, was like, you hear black people talking about the cops. Does that really happen?
And how long ago was that?
Exactly.
And people were towing that line up until George Floyd.
But by the way, those cops got off. So like this isn't over yet. Like, but it's funny you say that. Like Scorsese couldn't have directed it better. That video was like as if Scorsese was directing it, as if Scorsese was standing. Like, funny sketch would be like to play that video. This is not funny, it's dark, but you're playing that video and then you cut over and Scorsese's like, no, you really hate him, It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Or he's going like, you're playing it too real or whatever. Like, you're too sinister. Like, dial it back a bit.
The look on that guy's face, man. Like, so I know what you're saying. Like, there was something about this particular video footage of seeing a man, one, knowing that he's being filmed, looking at people filming him, and
the length of time,
and thinking in his mind,
I can't breathe, and like the several, like how many more indicators do you need? Like every excuse is gone.
Yeah. It was almost like it was almost as if like it was like there's a white panel, and like you start the video and the white panel's like, yeah, but it was probably resisting arrest, and like, oh, okay, keep going, it's like,
well, he probably. Well, the thing is, just every excuse is taken away.
Yeah, but he was trying to get. Oh, he's handcuffed.
Totally.
Oh, he was being belligerent. Oh no, he's not being. He's crying for his mom. It's like it was like that video took away all to the point where not one prominent white politician
could justify it.
Even Trump himself had to be like, that was terrible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But what's like never ceases to amaze me though is that for as progressive as we're headed towards and all that stuff, I'm on the internet every day. Everyone's on the internet every day. There's a new video every day, and just like a different type. Like it'll be Karen's calling the cops on a black guy. It'll be that, or it'll be like someone not wanting to wear their mask and coughing on babies and stuff. Every day, you're like, how many of you are out there knowing that everyone has a cell phone camera?
Well, the thing is like, okay, but here's the thing though. I think Will Smith said it best. I don't know. I don't want to mess. I don't know what his quote was. I don't want to. I'm saying I might be butchering it, but he says, "There's not more racism. It's just being filmed."
Yes. Yes.
So I just think
but for them to. You would think that once the entire world has cell phone cameras, the racism would be a little more low key and undercover.
Bro, I say this is what what you're talking about is optics.
Yeah.
Like this is what I've been saying on my podcast for a few weeks now is that I don't get why the governors, mayors, police chiefs weren't going, hey guys, we get it. Some of you don't like black people.
Right.
But let's not do this stuff on film anymore. Like
the cameras in your face are like, what, you filming me?
Yeah.
Go ahead. Like they get emboldened. Like
it's like it's almost as if you go like because you go, really, again? Like it's like you keep going like, you got filmed again, like as if like they're shocked, as if like these cops that get caught, they're like, that tells me. This is what really bothers me about like that George Floyd video. That guy had the look of someone who thought he was going to get away with it.
Because they always do.
Right.
So, and they have in the past.
Or what has he gotten away with that he goes, this is going to be fine. So that's the part that's scary. So I think there has to be a shift amongst those type of people too. Because look, by the way, to be a cop is not easy. It's a dangerous job. You have to have a certain level of like loyalty to justice, because the cops during the riots, they could easily be like, bye. Like the cops could just be, why not? Like imagine if the cops would have been like, okay, well, all right, good luck, burn the city down. It's like the rioters and people protesting like that, they need the cops there or it's meaningless.
True. But I think we've seen that there's just this institutionalized cultural problem within the force, and we saw it when the protests were happening. Like again, how many of these videos are you seeing like tear gas canisters to the face, and just you're like, yo, this is the time you're supposed to be on your best behavior, and you can't do it for a week?
Okay, but devil's advocate at the same time though, if you're protesting that these people are not acting properly, and then you want to be mad during the protest that they're not acting properly, like, and by the way, they're outnumbered. Like they're out there in the streets, like, and the people are throwing things and they're doing this stuff. And now we're expecting these cops. Yeah, we're expecting these cops to be like, hey, everybody, I don't want to put my hands on you. No, at that point, they're mad too. I mean, they're human beings also.
I agree. When it gets heated and riot and there's bricks and stuff, they have to defend themselves. But when like the guy in Buffalo his head cracks open and like, you don't need to do that. And then when they all do a Rudy, like if he's off the force we are, like that's the hill you're dying on.
I know. And then the thing too is like, that's what I say about like, it's a dangerous job. You knew that going in.
And you have to be better than, that's part of the job, is like, you have to be better than us.
Yes, that's the job. Like I hate the excuse of like, well, George Floyd was a criminal, right? Or any person that, I go, so?
Yeah.
Like,
and like
so,
name calling is not it's not fun.
But that's not even my point. My point is like, yeah, they're a criminal. Okay. But you're not the judge, jury, and executioner. You're supposed to enforce the law, enforce justice, and live up to that. That's your fucking job.
I think sometimes they forget they're in a uniform. So if a guy's saying like "fuck you" to a cop or whatever, like, yeah, it sucks to be called that, and you probably shouldn't be doing that, but it's not illegal, and you kind of have to be able to just let it be water over you.
In the same way that we have to put up with like when the Ku Klux Klan wants to go on a march,
Yeah.
I know, like, heck, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's always so bizarre, like, when you think about, like, we put ourselves in certain situations, and it's like, this is analogous to it, but it's like, in a comedy club setting, we make people buy alcohol. And then we also ask them to behave.
At minimum, 2 drinks.
We say, you need to get 2 things of alcohol. That's just the minimum, but you could get
and be
more.
Quiet
and behave yourself. Like, it's almost ridiculous. Like,
most people can, but statistically, when you introduce a certain amount of alcohol into people, they forget the rules, and just like their boisterous personality comes out, and sometimes it's too much for a live show, and they just can't handle it.
Well, and that's what I'm saying. It's the same thing about, like, but I still feel that there's a certain type of personality of person that becomes a cop, or the person that they got to be a Rough Rider.
I had this thought. I go, why do people become cops? It's not to do paperwork. They watch Bad Boys, or they watch, and it's always like it's like wanting to be a porn star and you never get to fuck chicks. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, they want to be like, what the fuck? Say that to my face.
Imagine you're the porn star and all you're doing is, you go in and they have you filing, and you're like,
They go, when do I fuck chicks? I go, oh, that's only in the movies. No,
that's not what porn's about.
Traffic tickets and.
See, that's what I mean about you and your brain. Like, you think you think in sketch form. Like,
I think it's sketch.
I always think when you have an idea, and I do this too, and that's why I like talking to you when we start talking about ideas, because to me it's already formed. Like, I already see like how we're gonna film it. Like, I already see like we need to get Ian Edwards and this person, and then we'll do it like this, and it's like, and I love that.
I get so excited. Like, once we're talking or something about a situation, and then I see the sketch, just like I get so giddy, man, and I just want to share it and paint the world, and kind of like do it with whoever I'm talking to too. You know what I mean?
See, I'm like a little older than you, so I go back to the time when we actually did sketch shows. Like, there was no filming it. It was just a sketch show. I was in a shitty sketch group.
Well, they still do it. You mean like UCB stuff, or?
Yeah, but that's like no. UCB and all that kind of stuff. I would say that's like, it's a step above amateur. Okay, it's still amateur, but it's like they got a practice space. It's being led. See, back in the day, it was just a group of friends got together, and you were going to do sketches. And it's like, you didn't have a leader. You would have to rent. Like, I remember renting a bullshit theater in Hollywood, and we would put on sketch shows. And it was
you'd invite people down and stuff.
Yeah. You invited people to come watch them. And those days are. I know people are still doing them, but when they do them, I think it's more a professional thing. It's set up better. But we used to just do it because it was the only way to like get that energy out. So you had your dumb sketch group, and you would do these like crazy sketches, and and you'd put on shows in front of like 13 people, and I still remember my sketch group was called the Suckling Pigs.
Oh yeah.
I don't even remember everybody's.
I remember you guys. I heard about you.
I don't even remember everybody's name that was in the group. That's how long ago it was. Only guy I remember is Jim Bruce. Jim's the only guy I remember. But like everyone
Shout
else,
out Jim Bruce.
And I remember one of the guys saying to me like, "This is why I needed to leave the group, because I was young. I was in my 20s, and we were doing these terrible sketches, because some of them were just bad, And but one of the guys was like, "Guys, we all suck. None of us are ever going to be on TV." And he said that. And that's when I was like, I need to get away from you.
Ooh, that's toxic, man.
Yeah. I said, I don't want that type of energy around me because I am going to be on TV. Yeah. I am going to make it. That's how I thought about it. So
dude, that's why I'm kind of protective. Like when I was coming up, protective of my dream. I wouldn't tell, like I never told anyone at Boeing that I did stand up. Even when I was going to college studying engineering, I didn't tell anybody that I was doing stand up as well. And because it was very much my thing and I had a personal relationship with it. And I know it seems naive to a lot of people, but they can't see it like I can see it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't, even if they're like, oh, that's great, I want to come see you sometime. It's like watching a toddler jump off a diving board. Like that's the energy of it.
Yeah.
And I don't need that. I know the perception and I don't want to have to deal with it. So that's why I just kept it to myself.
How does your mechanical engineering side of your brain, how does it mesh with your creative side for the stand-up? Or do they mesh at all? Or are they completely separate parts of your brain?
I think they complement each other really well. And I think I always had an artistic itch growing up. The engineering came later. Engineering, I was like 18 and I had to go to college, right?
That was for your parents.
So, that was for my parents and I was able to do it. And you have to be good at school or, they get mad at you and stuff. So, but I used to dance and stuff when I was a kid. I always had a performer element to me as a young child. But engineering, it teaches you time management, structure. It just gives you very crystalline ways of thinking. And I think that structure coupled with the magic of like ideas, comedy and like artistry, it gave structure to that. So I'll think of an idea and I know, okay, this bit goes here, this bit goes here.
Like an engineering formula or like a, right?
Kind of, or it's like a scaffolding. You're building when I think about stand-up, I think of, or just comedy in general, stand-up ideas are, they're like Lego pieces to me. So I'll think of a funny concept or a funny idea and it's a red Lego piece. And then it's just floating around. I'm living my life. And then maybe next week I think of another idea and that's also a red Lego piece. And I go, oh, that kind of fits. And then once I have enough red Lego pieces, that's a bit. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
And then I think of another bit or something and like, oh, that's a blue Lego piece. And then you just kind of figure out then you're putting together a set list.
Yeah, that's interesting. Something that you mentioned just now too, that I want the people to understand too, is that you're actually a fantastic dancer.
I'm okay. I'm kind of flattered that
for a comic, you're a great dancer.
Yes, I always say I say for a stand-up comedian, I'm a pretty good dancer. By dancer standards, yeah. I don't know.
That's how I feel about my cooking.
Oh yeah,
and my singing. I feel that way about my singing and my cooking. For a comic, I'm a decent
not
singer.
Bad, not bad. But I do sometimes I'll get a DM from like a legit dancer, and they'll be like, "No, you have like rhythm. You have like sophisticated rhythm." And I go, "Oh, that feels good," because like they're a pro.
Yeah. I felt that way when I was around these like professional, like real, like dramatic actors on I'm Dying Up Here, and like, they pull me aside and be like, you really need to talk to your agents about this because you got it. There's something about your and I was like really touched by that, like Melissa Leo, this like Oscar winning actress is like pulling me aside and like giving me tips. Like, I remember preparing a scene with her and just the things she was telling me, you know what I mean? Like just the intensity of her saying like, you do it this way and like tap into this and like just the way they would discuss the scene and I'll go, oh shit, okay, this is how you're getting to certain emotions and feelings and like, because they're looking at it that way. But I realized I understood it because I do that with my stand-up. With my stand-up, all my stand-up, there's an emotional thing. And if I don't have that emotion when I'm performing it, it doesn't come across the same way, or it comes across different each time I do it. Because sometimes I'm in a mood where I'm like a little bit mellow, and the same joke I'll do when I'm doing a little bit mellow, it actually hits differently than if I have this edge of like, this is really taking me off. Or I'm like, so I realized that same thing is how acting works. That's exactly how acting works. It's like, here's the words, but what am I feeling right now, and how do I translate that with this environment and with this scene partner? And it just made me realize, I was like, oh wow, okay, I really did enjoy doing dramatic acting.
Yeah, I mean, that's so great to be pulled into that world and kind of on the job training with someone like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Totally on the job training. So, but back to you though, it's like, I can tell though when you're dancing that there's a part of you that was like, you wish you were a professional dancer. Like there's a part of you that wishes it would like you were in a music video with Chris Brown. Like you're one of the guys in the back. It's like, you know what I mean? And you're doing all your moves and stuff. When you dance, I feel like this motherfucker thinks he's a backup dancer for fucking Paula Abdul right now.
I'll give you a few thoughts. So like dancing was the first thing I ever did. Like I was a little kid. I was like a baby and I would dance. I would dance like Michael Jackson, and that was just my way to express myself. So dancing is it's like when you smell something and you're transported to a certain place or whatever. Dancing is like my first thing. It's almost very primal for me. I don't think about anything. I'm a very heady guy. I'm overly analytical. I think about things too much. When I dance, it's like there's not a care in the world. It's just like I feel the music so much, and it's great. It's really cool. It's almost like meditating, where I'm not worrying about shit, and it's just about dancing, and I'm kind of transported to a different world, and it's almost like you're a different person, So there's that element. That's why I love dance. And then I don't know if I want to be the Chris Brown guy, but I would have these Hollywood fantasies. I always wanted to do this thing where I wanted to be a backup dancer for like Christina Aguilera one time, just for like one show, because it makes no sense.
Well, that's what I'm saying. What I mean? That's what I mean.
Nah, but I don't want to make a career out of it. Like, I wanted to be an established comedian,
right?
And then just like, wait, is that Fahim up there? Just for like one tour, you know what I mean? Like they're in Barcelona, and I'm up there just for 1 second, or I'm in a music video for like a split second.
Yeah.
That was my dream. And then also, I remember early on in my 20s, I told my people, I was like, get me in a Step Up movie. I want to be in a Step Up movie in the worst way.
You know what's funny about that? I wanted to be on Glee just as bad. Because I wanted to sing. I wanted to be the coach or the teacher on Glee, and I wanted to be like where I could sing songs. So I was like, I want to sing Katy Perry, baby, you're a
why not?
I wanted to be like,
especially if you have the skill set, like all you can do is ask. But I wanted to be in a Step Up movie in the worst way, and so whatever. Those things didn't work out, but I kind of have had like fractions of that or shades of that. Like I was
You were great on the what's the college show? What's the show on?
Funny Dance Show.
Funny Dance Show. I saw a clip of it and I was like, this motherfucker had like I got to tell you, I know you. Yeah. You loved every second of that.
Of course, I'll tell you how much I loved it. Well, here was my thought process. Okay, so if people who don't know, there's a show on E from Justine and Heidi. So our friends, they're comics as well. So they take comedians, 2 comedians versus 2 comedians, and you dance. It's supposed to be like funny, but then also kind of good. It depends on how good you are as a dancer. They give you choreographers.
Like I said, this goes one of those things. Stand-up's not enough.
Yeah, I know. But I was like, I'll do this, of course. I go, this makes sense though. Everything else is shit. But this show is awesome. So they gave us choreographers. They gave us a set. It was like really well produced.
Yeah, there was backup dancers.
And they trained us they gave us a routine. And they trained us for like 3 days. Like we're in a dance studio and everything. And most other people would like go home, but I stayed after. Like, because here was my thought. I go, I'm kind of good at dancing. I'm pretty good. Yeah. So I can really capitalize. I can really juice this thing. Because when else am I going to be able to learn from these choreographers? Yeah. When else am I going to have these sets? When else am I going to have these backup dancers?
Taking you serious.
Why not just put a little extra time and effort, especially if I can dance, and really do a great show? If I couldn't dance, then it'd be like, yeah, whatever, haha. But like, I was like, let's do this right. And I think it showed when we finally filmed it.
Yeah, it was great, man. That was great.
Thanks. And then side note, also, I'm a Fortnite dance. So if anyone plays Fortnite, one of the emotes is me dancing. Somehow, like they found, because I would post these videos.
Did you get paid for that?
Yeah, they paid me. Yeah,
good for you.
Because people were like, because
that's how you got the condo, right?
No. Because I heard they were like they used to jack moves and stuff like that, and so whenever I told people, I posted it on my Instagram because I have a side by side of the dance and what they ended up using, and people were like, "Oh, they fucked you," and I'm like, "No, they paid me. They made a deal." But it was random as fuck because sometimes I dance in my place.
Yeah.
So back when I was living in Koreatown,
I know because you did a dance on Instagram. And I saw it, and I was like, and I tried to copy. I did a dance in front of my door. It was one of the posts that people loved the most because it was.
Dude, it's crazy. That's what I've noticed too. I'll post my stand up. I'll post some sketches, and then sometimes I'll just do like a dumb dancing thing, and it gets way more comment. There's just something. It transcends logic. It's like it's such a heart game.
Because what you learned, stand up actually isn't enough.
I guess we got to stop doing this thing, Maybe COVID is just pushing us into dance.
Here's the thing, my gaming videos. I'll put a gaming video up now, and it gets more views on my Instagram than even like this. So I get it. People want, we don't know what clicks with people. It just does.
Yeah, but I just think that's such a cool credit to have. Like, I'm a stand-up comedian. Why do I have a Fortnite dance? But it's my favorite credit.
Yeah. I think it's great.
Just random.
Well, listen, dude. I think you're fantastic. I hope you do get on SNL. I hope that. Hey, maybe the goat face still comes back. You never know.
Maybe the door's not shut.
Yeah, you'll be at like Denny's or something, and somebody goes, "Hey, we're gonna make 3 seasons of Goat Face. You in?" You never know. So, but I'm sure there's big things ahead. I mean, you did that one. Sometimes a lot of people, they have the first crack. It's not the one that makes it big. It could be your second, third thing or whatever it might be. Totally. But I'm sure there is going to be a thing like that. And
everything is stepping stones to the next thing, and we're in the game, and that's kind of all that matters.
Yes, it is. Well, this has been Fahim. I appreciate you being on. I'm going to have all your information below. And
click here for all my stuff.
Yeah, click all this
podcast
stuff.
Here, sketches here, stand-up special here.
I know, and hopefully if I have enough time, I'm going to like try to grab the dance clips.
Yeah, put it up.
Yeah, just try to put it on the screen if I have time. But like, actually, it's happening.
TikTok real quick.
TikTok, that's the new one. I don't even get it. That should be right in your wheelhouse. TikTok must be.
I guess I have some stuff that have done pretty well on there, but I can't figure. I just feel like Chris Hansen's gonna pop onto my phone and be like, "What are you doing here?"
I know. I feel too old for TikTok too. I think it's like that's the one app that I was like, "Oh yeah, I should."
Sometimes I'll see a For You page and it's just like some kid like this, and it has like 5 million views.
Yeah.
You're like, what? He's like,
yeah. Just something like so stupid,
And then the video ends. Like, oh, that was it.
That's it. 5 million views, and then it's like the comments. Dude, it's so funny.
Yeah. And then I do it, and it's just like 2 views.
I don't get it. I don't know how shit goes viral, man. I don't know, but we'll figure it out. Hopefully this goes viral. Make this viral, guys.
Let's do a dance, and then we'll go viral, man.
I know. That's what to promote it. That's what we'll do. But anyways, thanks for coming on. Again,
of course,
Mr. Fahim Anwar, and please continue to subscribe, share. I appreciate you guys watching. If you want to watch me game, I'm on Erik Griffin Gaming every single day on Twitch. And again, this has been Fahim, and thank you for watching, and I will see you next week, guys. Thanks a lot, man.
All right, man. See you soon, hopefully, dude.